My male 24 parents passed away when I was very young. I have 3 siblings, a sister and 2 brothers who are much older than me. My oldest brother Dan was 26 at the time and my second brother Georg was 23. Georg inherited a lot of money when our parents passed away, so he had no financial problems. After my parents passed away, I wanted to live with either my sister Sophie or Georg, but both of them made it very clear that they didn't want me. Sophie was living in a dorm and Georg said he had a kid and he couldn't take care of another one. But this is BS because my oldest brother had kids too, and none of my siblings was attending school. I didn't want to live with Dan because he was our half-brother and I wasn't close to him, and he lived in another city away from all my friends and the rest of our family. But he was the only one who wanted me, so I went with him. Unlike what I thought, my oldest brother is actually awesome and I had a very good life. I still live with him. My other siblings didn't even bother to call much. This was a short background that might be relevant. Recently, Georg lost everything in a house fire. I don't know or care about what happened. All I know is he's in an awful condition. My sister left the country a few years ago, so my oldest brother is the only one who can help him. A few days ago, my oldest brother told us Georg and his family, wife and sons, tween and nearly adult, want to move in with us for a while because they have no other option. His wife doesn't have a family. We live in a 5-bedroomed house, Dan's room, my room, his daughter's room, his son's room, and our gaming room, so we have the space for them to move in. Dan said he doesn't want to force us to give up our space and wants us to figure out something that works for us. My nephew said he's fine with giving up the gaming room or sharing for a short time, but I said screw them, I'm not sharing or giving up anything for them, and my niece does what I say, so she's on my side. Dan said he's a bit disappointed but won't force us to do anything. However, Georg and his wife think I'm a selfish idiot. You are the idiot, not because of not giving a damn about the brother who clearly didn't give a damn about you. You're the idiot because you're interfering with your half-brother doing for your other brother exactly what he did for you, helping out when help is needed. As you said, your half-brother is an awesome person and the type who helps family when they need it. Yep, being a 24-year-old living rent-free with a person who is kind enough to take in a little kid while simultaneously contributing to a tween nephew becoming homeless is mind-boggling. He'd really rather be able to have a room dedicated to video games than let 2 minors have a safe place to stay. So even if you want to hate your second brother forever, you're comfortable playing the role your second brother played to some other kid? Break the cycle, OP. My niece does what I say, so she's on my side. This sounds horribly manipulative. It's Dan's home. I imagine this was more of a question posed to Dan's children regarding their comfort with having house guests, since OP is a 24-year-old man and far from a child. OP is trying to manipulate the kids to get revenge, which is not okay. If the brother wants to help his sibling, he can do so. And if OP is not careful, he may wear out his own welcome. Honestly, it would be hard to help someone that walked away from you. Your half-brother is very kind. You're fortunate he took you in and gave you a good life, and you were so young when traumatized. Based on the ages of your nephews, it sounds like your brother and wife have a toddler and weren't prepared to have another child in the house. Forgiveness is good for your soul, not a suggestion to let them move in, just something that might help you. The brother was 23 and filthy rich due to inheritance, and OP was a little kid frightened to go to foster care. You are not the idiot. Knowing that you were a helpless child and your full siblings would choose to abandon you, I would say that your feelings are justified. I would offer to take the kids in like a decent family member would do, and like they didn't do for you. Screw the adults. Your brother was 23, had a kid and wife, and just got an inheritance. Way more than enough to help and not send you to foster care. I'm 25-year-old female. Recently, my colleague, female 33, invited me to her wedding, which happened yesterday. I was super excited and happy for her. Just in case, I asked her if there were any guest fees. She said, "No, you don't need to pay me anything." On the day itself, everything went well until the reception, dinner time. To my shock, I was presented with a wedding menu that had prices on it. For example, steak, $50. Everything was ridiculously expensive, including the vegetarian options. At first, I wanted to question her because, well, she lied to me and that I didn't have to pay for anything. But it was her wedding and I didn't want to spoil her day by embarrassing her in front of everyone. However, the only other option was not to eat, as I didn't bring enough money for a meal and a ride back. But this was completely unfavourable as I'd skipped my lunch to save space for the wedding meal and was pretty hungry. Suddenly, I remembered seeing a McDonald's about 5 minutes from the hotel. As tactfully as I could, I asked the bride if I could make a quick stop at McDonald's as I didn't bring enough money for the reception meal. I said that I'd be back in time for the gift ceremony and cake. I thought she'd agree, but to my horror, she got really upset. She said she put in so much effort to get this Michelin star restaurant service, yet I still wasn't happy. I was trying to bring her down by saying I'd rather eat McDonald's. Alarmed, I said that I didn't mean it that way, I just didn't have the cash for it. She then scoffed, saying, "Whose fault's that?" Although I was trying to keep in my anger, those words really made me angry, so I told her, "You were the one who lied that I didn't need to pay anything." Getting angry as well, she replied, "What I meant was there is no attendance fee. You literally assume that you get a free 5-course dinner. Wow, you're cheaper than I thought." Then, with a glare, she asked me to leave her wedding. I did, struck dumb and rather hurt. And on my way home, I grabbed a Big Mac. LOL. Back at home, I told my boyfriend everything and asked if I was an idiot. He thought it was a funny story but said I was an idiot. If I didn't have the money, I could always repay her later. In his exact words, he said, "You chose the wrong time to be stingy." My other friends also agree, saying that it wasn't tactful of me to do that at the wedding, and although she lied, I should have just brushed it off instead of dampening her happy spirits. After hearing their opinions, I felt quite guilty and embarrassed. However, that one little part of me still thinks that it's justified because 1. She lied to me, and 2. Publicly humiliated me. Please help me out. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but I think you handled it wrong. You shouldn't have asked her if leaving and getting McDonald's was okay. You should have done it and come back. The bride, your colleague, does sound like a bit of a jerk, and she shouldn't have humiliated you that way. I've never been to a wedding where I had to pay for my own food, and I've been to some cheap damn weddings and some expensive damn weddings. Next time you'll know to be prepared. Also, did you buy her a gift? Because if you didn't, and showed up to get a free meal, then you're a bit of an idiot. Where do you live that it's acceptable for people to charge their guests money for the food at their wedding? The boyfriend's comment, "If I didn't have the money I could always pay her back later," doesn't make sense. Is he saying OP should have asked the bride to buy her a meal and reimburse her after? Because it sounds like the money goes straight to the venue or caterers to pay for the meal, just like buying it at a restaurant. It's not just, "Oh, oops, bride, I'll just take this meal now and pay you for it tomorrow." I agree. I have never heard of a wedding where the guests are expected to pay for dinner, especially without any notice. The bride's response is BS too. Attendance fees are not a thing at weddings. You asked and she said there was no cost. The misunderstanding is on her. That's not a wedding, that's a party at a restaurant. I'm guessing the reason you were invited was to fill out numbers when her other guests refused to pay to attend her wedding. And OP, you desperately need some new friends. My wife and I live far away from both sets of parents. We visit them a couple of times a year and they visit us about the same amount. My mom and dad love food. They will buy pounds of garlic and leave it in a rice maker for a month to make black garlic. They plan their vacations around amazing restaurants. My in-laws are lovely people, but boiling chicken drumsticks is fancy for them, and they refuse to eat steak that isn't well done. I discovered this the first time I went to their home for dinner. I wasn't even asked how I liked my steak. Everyone got a well-done steak. It took me years to convince my wife to try a medium-rare steak. Now she loves them. I bought some beautiful prime steak for them when they came over when we moved in together. I made theirs medium well and I died a little inside. Her dad took them back to the grill and destroyed them, so now I buy select grade meat. I've been buying some excellent quality Wagyu for when my parents visit. Not every single time, maybe once a year. My wife says I'm being an idiot by not treating both families the same. I don't think I should waste money on great food for them when I know how they will treat it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. A burnt hunk of select steak tastes the same as a burnt hunk of Wagyu. This is a financial decision based on the tastes of your guests. Your wife is being silly. If she wants to feed her parents destroyed Wagyu as long as she works, let her buy it. Otherwise, start grilling chicken or make a turkey or a ham, stuff reserved for holidays and celebrations. That way they feel special and you don't waste quality steaks that someone else would appreciate more. It's not about quality, it's literally a waste to feed those people specialty foods. This is an absurd demand from your wife. I want you to waste money by ruining very nice and very expensive steaks, or I want you to only serve cheap steaks to your parents. It's not about being snobby, it's about not spending the money on something they won't appreciate. I disagree. Stop having steak with your in-laws. You can't feed them Wagyu and I understand why, But your wife can't accept you are being snobby about meat and giving her parents meat you know is lower quality on purpose. She's right. Serving food which you see as insulting is disrespectful. So rather than fighting about it until the end of time, understand that steak is not an in-law meal, and find one you can make with ingredients you respect and that they will enjoy. You're only an idiot if you demand that someone wins the steak fight instead of putting all of that energy into finding another showpiece meal you can all enjoy each other's company over. I, 35, have been married to my wife Jen, 30, for 3 years, and before that we dated for 6 years. She's also 32 weeks, 8 months pregnant with twins. She's my best friend and I absolutely adore her. With one minor flaw, she's a huge workaholic and perfectionist. While we both have very well-paying jobs, Jen's job is way more stressful and time-demanding. Even though she's brilliant and fabulous at what she does, she often works around the clock. On average 60-hour weeks at home and in the office. This wasn't a problem before, but about 2 weeks ago her doctor told her to take a step back from work, i.e. go on leave early, because the stress was starting to cause her a couple of health issues, even though the babies were fine. However, being the workaholic that she is, she's still been working from her laptop 6 to 8 hours every day, which I understand that she had a couple of cases that she needed to finish, but most days she was so focused on work that she forgot to eat meals and fell asleep at her desk. So yesterday when I got home, I realized she'd done the same thing again. I woke her up and told her she needed to rest in bed. She insisted that she was fine and said there was an emergency with a client of hers and she just needed to finalize some things for a co-worker. I asked her to take a break first and take a nap and eat, but she said she would once she was done and that it wouldn't take her more than an hour. I told her fine, but no longer than an hour, even though I was pretty annoyed. So 2 hours later, when she was still working, I became frustrated and unplugged the Wi-Fi and put the cable out of sight. The only purpose of this was to cut her off from work on her laptop because she clearly had no intention of stopping. Once she realized this, she yelled at me, called me an idiot, and said that I was treating her like a child and accused me of being controlling, condescending, and borderline abusive. I told her she was being stupid and just let the co-worker who asked for her help handle it. I said she was free to use the mobile hotspot on her phone or figure out the router herself, but otherwise I would plug it back in when I woke up, which I did. She was so mad that she slept in the guest room, and when I went to apologize the next morning for calling her stupid, not for cutting the internet, she said that she couldn't even look at me. She hasn't said another word to me yet. I'm starting to feel like I might have been a bit extreme, even if I only did it out of concern. But honestly, she's overdoing it by trying to meet deadlines she's not even supposed to be responsible for. Am I the idiot? To a certain extent I get your concern, especially if a doctor said to limit stress. Does she need a better work-life balance? Probably. But the way you deal with that concern is not by taking away your wife's autonomy. That's just unacceptable in a relationship. And frankly, given that your wife is a perfectionist and worried about work deadlines, you probably caused her a lot more stress than cutting her off from the Wi-Fi, hiding the cable, and demanding that she go take a nap like she's a naughty 5-year-old. You are the idiot. Exactly, she's probably working her butt off now so she doesn't have to do anything once the babies arrive. Your wife is an adult and gets to make her own choices. If you disagree so vehemently with those choices, you can choose to make an issue out of it, but just unilaterally making a choice for her, over her objections, about her own health is everything your wife told you it was, with emphasis on the condescending. If you think your wife actually has an addiction or a serious problem with her work patterns, then you should tell her that and push for therapy, not go behind her back and sabotage her decisions when you don't agree with them. I'm going against the grain here. She's being irresponsible with her health and the health of the babies. The doctor told her to go on leave early, but she continued to work and not really take care of herself. No, I don't think you're the idiot. You're concerned and just want your wife to follow the medical advice for her and the baby's safety. Right, everyone is missing the fact she's being irresponsible. He's right to be controlling when the girl can't even properly care for her unborn child. She's not eating. She falls asleep randomly at the desk. The amount of "you are the idiot" just shows how everyone wants to blame a man. She wouldn't be treated like a child if she didn't act like one. OP is not her parent, but he is those babies' father. Update: am I the idiot for shutting off the home Wi-Fi so that my wife would stop working? Jen and I had a calm discussion about last night. She called me on my crap and told me that I only stressed her out more by cutting the internet, something a lot of people pointed out. We both decided how we would respond if the other person was acting in a way that was harmful to our family, so that we would both feel respected. I apologized for calling her stupid, and she apologized for calling me abusive. As it turns out, neither of us meant the name calling. I promised to trust her judgment, and she promised not to overdo it with work. I mentioned that we should go to therapy at least once before the boys are born, and she also thought it was a good idea. We made up, got burgers, and she passed out on the couch. But I do agree that I was in the wrong here, and I accept my judgment. It's deserved, and I'm going to work on myself. I'm glad you two talked about it, but your wife seems to be a bit self-destructive in being a perfectionist. And I disagree with everyone here who says that you shouldn't interfere and let her damage herself and maybe your children with stress. If you're having a child together, it's wonderful that the father-to-be is involved and cares for the children. She is not an idiot but should address her unhealthy behavior because that's what it is. Workaholism is destructive and unhealthy and can destroy families, bodies, and lives.